In this project, technology played a major role at every stage of the production process, including pre-production, production, post-production, and distribution. I used a combination of hardware, software, and online platforms to plan, create, edit, and present my media product, which is a psychological thriller focused on bullying, emotional pressure, isolation, and violence. This reflects how media production today is no longer limited to one device or one stage, but instead depends on different technologies working together to create an effective final product. In pre-production, technology helped me research my genre, develop ideas, and communicate plans. In production, it allowed me to capture footage using accessible equipment. In post production, it gave me tools to help the story through editing, sound, and color. Finally, in distribution, digital platforms made it possible to think about how the product could reach its audience. This links strongly to Henry Jenkins' idea of convergence culture, where different media technologies come together and interact rather than existing separately. My project reflects this because the final outcome depended on the combination of filming devices, editing software, and online spaces, showing that the technology is essential in modern media production. For the production stage, I used a range of hardware to capture my film in a realistic and effective way. The main device I used for filming was my smartphone camera, which was very important because it was accessible, easy to use, and flexible enough for different shots and locations. And my teacher also recommended me that. I also used a tripod to keep many of my shots stable, which helped me create a more controlled and professional appearance, especially in scenes where framing and stillness were important. In addition to this, a digital camera was also used for some shots to improve visual quality and give certain moments a more cinematic feel. For lighting, I used a mixture of natural lighting, room lighting, and studio lights with stands. This combination allowed me to balance realism with visual control, which was especially important in psychological thriller, where mood and tone are central. I also use props such as the phone for the group chat scene, the bottle, and the knife, all of which were important not to just practically but symbolically as well, because they all help communicate key themes like digital bullying, emotional instability, and violence. Overall, the hardware I used allowed me to create a product that looked believable and meaningful while staying within limits of a student production. The hardware I selected was important because it allowed me to combine realism with creativity, which is essential in psychological thriller. The smartphone gave me flexibility and speed during filming, making it easier to shoot in real locations, and it just called quickly when needed. While the digital camera helped me produce higher quality visuals in selected shots. The combination was useful because as a student filmmaker, I needed more equipment which was practical but still capable of creating an engaging final product. The tripod was also very important because it helped me achieve stable shots and clean framing, which made the scenes more visually controlled and easier for the audience to follow. At the same time, I also used handheld shots in some moments, and this created a slight sense of instability and realism, which fits the psychological thriller genre because it reflects the emotional state of the character. In terms of lighting, natural and room lighting made the setting feel grounded and authentic, while studio light gave me more control over mood, helping me create darker and more serious visuals. This shows how even basic equipment can be used to carefully and effectively create meaning. In media context, this supports the idea of that low budget production does not necessarily reduce impact, because creative choices can still communicate strong themes and atmosphere through intelligent use of available technology. For production, I used CapCut as my main editing software. This was one of the most important technologies in shaping my film. Through editing, I was able to organize the footage in a clear chronological structure that followed my script and made a narrative easier for the audience to understand. I use hard cuts, maintain realism, and keep the pace direct. While fade black to black transitions were used to certain points to create emotional pauses and emphasize major shifts between scenes. I also used CapCut's text and overlay tools to create group chat messages, which were important part of my opening because they visually represented cyberbullying and social pressure. These message graphics used fade and pop in effects to make them feel dynamic and realistic. While the credits were also being used, simple fade in and fade out transitions to create cleaner and more professional look. Sound device was another key part of editing process, as I used background music with a gradual build up to intensify tension and mirror the character's emotional journey from sadness to anger. I also added sound effects such as glass breaking footsteps and the knife sound in the stabbing scene to increase realism and make the audience feel more immersed in the action. Through CapCut, I was not just cutting clips together, but actively constructing meaning, emotion, and suspense. Beyond basic editing, I also use software to carefully control the visuals and sound of my film in order to strengthen the atmosphere and emotional impact. I adjust the brightness and contrast to create darker tones, and I also applied slight warm tint so that the visuals can still feel they still felt realistic rather than overly artificial. This color grading helped maintain consistency across scenes while also reinforcing the serious emotional tone of the film, which is important psychological thrillers where visual mood shapes the audience response. I also layered background music and sound effects together, balancing the audio levels so that key sounds such as the glass breaking and the stabbing movement stood out clearly without overwhelming the rest of the scene. This kind of sound layering was very important because it guided the audience emotions and increased tension. The pacing of the film was also controlled by through editing, with a slower build up at the start to reflect the character's depression and isolation before moving into faster and more intense moments. Later on, the narrative becomes darker. I also used silence in certain parts to create discomfort and suspense, showing that sound does not only come from music but also from the careful absence of sound. Altogether, these visuals and sound help create more cinematic and immersive experience, showing how software can be used not only for technical editing but also for storytelling and audience engagement. Online technologies played a major role in helping me research, develop, and shape my project, especially because I am a student filmmaker working in a limited budget. I used platforms like YouTube to watch psychological thriller openings and analyze how professional filmmakers use camera angles, editing, lighting, and sound to create tension and engage audience. I also use Google to research the codes and conventions of the genre, which helped me understand how political thrillers usually present mental health violence, suspense, and emotional instability. Films such as Joker influenced me, particularly in the way they focus on the main character's mental state and the atmosphere to reflect inner conflict. At the same time, I was also influenced by independent and low budget films, which often focus more on storytelling and social issues than on expensive visuals or commercial spectacle. As a student filmmaker, this was important because it showed me that a limited budget does not stop a film from being meaningful or effective. In fact, many smaller or non-conglomerate productions focus more deeply on themes such as bullying, mental health, loneliness, and trauma, which are also central in my own film. This connects to Karan and Seaton, who argue that large media organizations often prioritize profit and reputation, while smaller producers can have more creative freedom. My project reflects that independent mindset because it relies more on narrative, realism, and social meaning than on expensive effects or large scale production. Online communication technologies were also very important in the planning and organization of my project. I use messaging platforms such as WhatsApp to discuss ideas, plans, scenes, and manage timing of the shoot with my team. This made the production process more efficient because it allowed me to quickly share updates, coordinate with others, and make adjustments when needed. Communication tools may seem simple but are a major part of the modern media production film because film products depend on collaboration, organization, and quick decision making. In my case, online communication helped connect the creative side of the project with the practical side, ensuring that the production could run smoothly even with limited resources. This also reflects the changing nature of the media production today, where digital tools are not only to make content but also to support collaborative processes behind it. In this way, communication technology became part of the project success as it helped turn ideas into actions, made the whole production more manageable. It also shows how even student filmmakers now work in different ways that reflects real industry practices, using online tools to organize and produce content more effectively. For distribution, online technologies are central to how my product would realistically reach its audience. The main release platform would be YouTube, where the full film could be uploaded and viewed easily, while Instagram and TikTok would be used for promotion, though teaser clips, short scenes, and highlights designed to build interest before the full release are designed to build. This is especially effective because my target audience is mainly teenagers and young adults who are already active users of social media and are used to discovering media content across multiple digital platforms. As a low budget student project, online distribution is also much more realistic and accessible than traditional camera cinema release because it avoids the cost of and difficulty of mainstream distribution while still allowing global reach through internet. Social media also encourages direct audience interaction through likes, comments, and shares, making the audience more active and passive. This links directly to Clay Shirky's theory of end of audience, which suggests that audience are no longer just the consumers but participants who can engage with, respond to, and even help circulate media content. Though online distribution, through online distribution, my project could gain visibility, feedback, and engagement in ways that would not be possible through older platforms of distribution. This shows how digital platforms are not convenient but essential to modern media circulation. My project clearly reflects convergence because it depends on the integration of hardware, software, and online technologies rather than using each one separately. Hardware such as smartphone, digital camera, and lights were used to capture footage. Software such as CapCut was used to edit, shape, and enhance it. And online technologies were used to research, communication, promotion, and potential distribution. The entire workflow of the project followed a cross-platform process. It was filmed, then edited, then prepared to be shared online. In addition, the content itself could exist across platforms, with the full film on YouTube and shortened promotional clips on Instagram and TikTok. This reflects Henry Jenkins' theory of convergence culture, where media current content flows across multiple platforms and technologies, creating connected media experience rather than a single isolated product. My project also shows that convergence is not only about technology but also about audience behavior because once the product is online, viewers can interact with it through comments, shares, feedbacks, which affects how widely it circulates. In this way, convergence becomes both a production process and a distribution strategy. My film, therefore, is a good example of modern media production, where different technologies work together to create, shape, and spread content effectively. Lastly, overall, technology was essential in helping me create a realistic, engaging, and meaningful psychological thriller. Though through hardware, I was able to capture footage and control the visual look of the film. Through software, I was able to structure the narrative, control pacing, add sound, and build suspense. And through online technologies, I was able to research the genre, organize the production, and think about how the film could be distributed and to to its intended audience. These technologies did not simply support the project, they shaped it every stage and allowed me to communicate themes such as bullying, mental health, isolation, and violence more effectively. Media theories such as Jenkins' convergence culture, Shirky's end of audience, and Curran and Seaton's ideas about production and creative freedom all help explain why technology matters too much in modern media. My project shows that even as a student with a limited budget, it is possible to produce something impactful by using accessible technology in a thoughtful and creative way. In the end, technology helped me create realism, build tension, and reach an audience, which is why it was such an important part of the entire production process.